Let's turn now to the latest information coming out about the National Security Agency. Just moments ago, we learned that the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, the FISA court, approved the Obama administration's application to renew the bulk collection of telephone metadata for another 90 days. This will give the administration time to consider those recommendations that were made by a White House-appointed panel on how to reform the NSA. This is the first renewal since the court rulings were handed down of two conflicting judges dealing with the constitutionality of this collection program. Also out today, the Justice Department filed an appeal against U.S. District Court Judge Richard Leon's ruling that phone records might be likely unconstitutional, or collecting them anyway. Another development this week. On Thursday, we learned that the NSA is well on its way to developing a quantum supercomputer. This incredibly intricate system has eluded researchers for years due to its complexity and its fragility. If the NSA succeeds, a working quantum computer would open the door to easily breaking the strongest encryption tools in use today, including a standard known as RSA. Meaning you can kiss your digital privacy goodbye for good, no matter how many measures you take to protect yourself. Now, the completion of this program, like this, is still likely at least 5 years off that we know of, but that's not the only computer you should be worried about. The other one is your own. According to a new Der Spiegel report, a division of the NSA is intercepting computers and other electronics on their shipping routes. Then, before the packages are delivered, NSA agents load malware or backdoor access onto the technology. The whole process is called interdiction. Earlier, I spoke with RT Web producer Andrew Blake and political commentator Sam Sachs. I first asked Andrew to explain how this program works.
Der Spiegel first came out with this report a few days ago, and we've only really seen what's in that report. You know, keep in mind that only a handful of people have access to the classified NSA documentation where this kind of stuff is talked about. And a security researcher named Jacob Appelbaum presented in Hamburg, Germany last week, actually in conjunction with the Der Spiegel article, and managed to shine a little bit more light on this interdiction program. And what we do know, and it is kind of limited right now, but what the public knows at least, is that when the NSA has a particular target, whether it's a foreign state-run agency or a malicious hacker or some sort of, international criminal they're trying to track down, they can be, ideally monitoring their sort of internet transactions. And if that person, say, according to Applebaum, orders something off of Amazon.com, the NSA is able to intercept that, able to divert it to a side location, and then literally just break inside the computer and add bugs, add backdoors, add all sorts of different things. So terrible things. Do the companies know? Are they participating in this? So far, almost all of the companies that were named by either Mr. Applebaum or in the Der Spiegel article have issued statements either dismissing the notion that they helped the NSA, or else flat out they had never even heard of this. One of the companies in particular that Applebaum mentioned in his presentation was Dell Computers. There's a number of hardware pieces, servers that are manufactured by Dell, and have been for years, called the PowerEdge servers. And the NSA advertises among its employees that it has programs that can let it literally just hack right into those pieces of Dell machinery. Also, the NSA advertises that it has a 100% success rate when it needs to target a Apple iOS device. So, one thing he brought up during his speech was, well, does the NSA have a 100% accuracy when it comes to this because they pretty much know, their direct cooperation there? That's something that Apple is, are they going to deny? Well, it's there's a whole lot of questions that were brought up about colluding between American companies and the NSA, and I don't think we're really going to know the full answer for a while. And what about you and me? Is there any way for us to know if this is happening to us or to our computers? I mean, I don't think you, personally, you're a good girl. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I don't think anyone's trying to break into your computer. But if you buy something from Dell, if you buy something from Western Digital, if you buy something by Samsung, if you buy something by Cisco, these are all companies where the NSA has a list of vulnerabilities in those products. So the biggest computer names, Apple, if you have an iPhone, the NSA knows how to break it. Are they going to break into your iPhone? I don't know. I hope not. But they know how.
All right. It's not just the role of tech companies, it's the role of shipping companies too, UPS and FedEx, who are the ones redirecting these packages. They were reached whether or not they knew about these programs or whether they were cooperating or participating, and they said we weren't cooperating or participating, but they didn't say whether they knew about the programs or not.
That's an interesting point, Sam. Now, I know Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders wrote to NSA Director Keith Alexander. He asked this, quote, has the NSA spied or is the NSA currently spying on members of Congress or other American elected officials? Sam, do you expect Alexander to answer that question honestly, given his track record and based on the disclosures that we've seen so far from the NSA?
Well, the NSA has a pretty tricky way of talking to members of Congress. They'll say something in public and in public letters, and then you might remember Ron Wyden asked, are they collecting cell site location data? And the NSA writes back, we're not currently doing that, but you might want to see the classified addendum for another answer to that question. But this is a pretty simple question. Yes, they are spying, because Senator Sanders goes on in the letter to say, by spying, I mean, are you collecting metadata on personal phone calls? Yes, they're spying on everybody. They're collecting everyone's metadata in the United States, pretty much. So that's a pretty easy way that Clapper can respond to that.
Now, since the New York Times and The Guardian published calling for clemency for Edward Snowden yesterday, have elected officials in the U.S. followed suit? Has anyone shown any support for it?
There's been a few members who've tweeted out some support. Congressman Alan Grayson has, Congressman Jim McGovern, Congressman Peter Welch. Really, Alan Grayson's really the only one who's come out full throat for clemency. A lot of other members of Congress want to see some, at least Espionage Act charges dropped, everything like that. Ultimately, Snowden did what they couldn't do but wanted to do. Ron Wyden has been saying for years that the American people would be horrified if the NSA knew what they were doing, but he took his oath more seriously, I guess, or wasn't willing to expose constitutional violations like Edward Snowden was.
And Andrew, we have 30 seconds. What do you make of the New York Times calling for both Snowden and Chelsea Manning's kind of pardons?
Well, I don't think the New York Times has gone as far as to call for a pardon for Chelsea Manning yet, which is kind of sad, seeing as how even as recently as last month, mainstream established media have been citing diplomatic cables and war logs released by Private Manning. Those information are still newsworthy and still used on a regular basis. And if you're going to ask for clemency for Snowden, I don't see why you shouldn't also ask for Manning.
All right, RT web producer Andrew Blake and political commentator Sam Sachs, thanks for working, guys.